Meghan Markle thought she had it under control. Season 2 would love Meghan, or as insiders call it, Season 1, Part 2, was supposed to be her comeback. A clean slate, a second shot at telling her story on her own terms. But instead of a triumphant return, things spiraled into a full-blown mess right in front of a live test screening audience. What was meant to be a standard feedback session quickly turned into a painfully awkward emotional breakdown, one that now has Netflix in crisis mode and its top executives scrambling behind closers. It all started when the audience began giving their brutally honest feedback. This wasn't your usual sugar-coated Hollywood praise. People were calling the show dull, self-indulgent, and inauthentic. Some even went as far as to call Meghan herself manipulative and fake. And it wasn't just murmurs or anonymous comment cards. This was being said out loud directly in front of her during the live Q&A. That's when things went sideways. Instead of maintaining composure or brushing it off like most celebrities might, Meghan completely lost it. She broke down crying on stage, pleading with the audience to understand the meaning behind the show. She talked about empowerment, feminism, and the importance of addressing toxic masculinity, begging the viewers to reconsider their opinions. You could feel the desperation oozing out of every word. This wasn't just a PR hiccup. It was a meltdown. Producers, who were clearly caught off guard, tried to steer things back on track. They attempted to escort her off stage, but Meghan rushed back before they could even clear the area. She grabbed the mic again, this time even more emotional. Still in tears, she started pleading again, asking the screeners to give the show another chance and rethink their comments. Audience members looked visibly uncomfortable. People started leaving before the session even ended. That's how awkward it got. And while all this was happening in front of the audience, what most people didn't see was the absolute panic going on behind the scenes. Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters, Netflix's top dogs, were watching the whole thing unravel. According to insiders, even they were stunned. This wasn't the image Netflix wanted for one of their so-called premium shows. They were hoping for a redemption arc. What they got was chaos. After the meltdown, Meghan's manager had to personally step in and pull her off stage. And once the dust settled, Netflix made a swift and brutal decision. No more Q&A sessions. Not for this show, not for Meghan. Not anymore. All the remaining test screenings for the new edits were be done quietly with zero interaction. Ted Sarandos reportedly told staff that the entire situation was not only embarrassing, but unacceptable. That says a lot coming from a man who originally pushed for the Q&A format in the first place. Behind the curtain, Meghan is still trying to salvage things. She's reportedly begging Netflix for a third season, hoping that a contract renewal could somehow reverse the damage. But sources say her grip on Sarandos is slipping fast. Whatever power or leverage she once held seems to be evaporating. Her behavior during the screening didn't just raise eyebrows. It might have sealed her fate. Meanwhile, the show's production continues to bleed money. The reshoots, the delays, the new edits, it's all piling up into millions of dollars in unexpected costs. And for what? A series that might never recover from the disaster that just unfolded. Hollywood insiders are already talking. Studios like Paramount and Disney want nothing to do with her now. Meghan's once promising second act is starting to look more like a final curtain call. The ripple effect from Meghan's emotional outburst didn't stop at the Netflix offices. Word spread fast across Hollywood. Agents, producers, and studio execs were whispering about what went down to screen, and not just because it was dramatic. This was something else entirely. There was a level of volatility that made people nervous. No one wants to back a talent who might derail a promotional event by crying in front of a crowd and hijacking the mic without warning. Inside Netflix, the atmosphere shifted overnight. Ted Sarandos, once seen as her biggest supporter, suddenly went quiet. Meghan used to have open communication with him. Some said she even had sway over certain creative decisions. But that window was closing fast. After the debacle, he reportedly started avoiding direct contact. Staffers were told to run all communication through her management. There was no longer a friendly tone in the emails, just cold, brief updates. To make matters worse, the numbers who would love, Meghan weren't doing her any favor. Internally, Netflix had already seen the performance of Season 1. Despite their attempt to spin it as a success, the viewership was weak, especially considering the amount of money poured into production and marketing. When the real data leaked to key stakeholders, it painted a sobering picture. The series had underperformed across all demographics. That's why Season 2, or Part 2 as it really is, was supposed to fix everything. New footage, cleaner edits, a more relatable tone. Even the kitchen scenes were shot again to look more casual and intimate. But the test screening told them all they needed to know. No amount of tweaking could fix the core issue. Audiences simply weren't connecting with Meghan. And when she called them haters and traitors during the Q&A, it cemented that disconnect even further. Her PR team scrambled to control the damage. There were quiet pitches to podcasts, lifestyle magazines, even a few friendly YouTube channels, hoping someone would run a soft piece on how vulnerable Meghan had been lately. But the problem wasn't just the audience perception. It was the reaction from inside the industry. Other celebrities, especially A-listers, were backing away. One well-known actress reportedly declined a cameo on Meghan's next planned project, calling the whole situation career poison. And while all this was unraveling, Meghan was still clinging to the hope of a season renewal. She believed, or at least tried to convince herself, that if she could just have one more season, one final shot, she could prove everyone wrong. The sad part is she still had some influence. She tried using her old leverage on Ted Sarandos, hinting at behind-the-scenes promises, dropped names, even brought up shared initiatives they once planned together, but none of it seemed to work anymore. There's a growing sense inside Netflix that they want to quietly move on, wrap up the remaining test screenings, launch the season without fanfare, and then bury the entire thing under newer, flashier projects. Meghan's pleas for a third season are being met with silence. In fact, some insiders say the only thing keeping the show alive is a financial sunk cost. They've already invested so much, they're trying to recover whatever scraps they can. The worst part, Meghan knows it. That's why she's spiraling. The desperation isn't just about the show. It's about her standing in the industry. She's watching opportunities vanish. Doors closing that were once wide open. Studios like Disney, Paramount, even indie production houses are taking her off the short list. She's no longer seen as a rising star. She's becoming a risk. And in Hollywood, once you're labeled a risk, it's almost impossible to bounce back. Netflix isn't just distancing itself. They are erasing her presence from the boardroom entirely. One producer speaking off the record said the vibe shifted to containment mode. No more marketing brainstorms. No more scheduled appearances. Meghan's name barely gets brought up in meetings now, unless it's about limiting exposure or damage control. What started as a flagship deal is now being treated like a toxic asset. Meanwhile, the final stretch of test screenings is already underway, but they're happening quietly with zero audience interaction. No panels, no post-show discussions, just silent viewings followed by anonymous surveys. It's clear Netflix want to wrap this up and move on. Even Ted Sarandos, who once defended the project passionately, is reportedly embarrassed by how everything played out. He stopped defending it in internal meetings. The shift is undeniable. But Meghan isn't done fighting. Behind the scenes, she's been calling in favors, trying to set up meetings with influencers, executives, even independent producers. She's pitching herself as a voice for modern women, claiming the backlash is rooted in outdated standards and a refusal to hear strong female narratives, but is falling flat. Too many people saw what happened. Too many whispers are now out in the open, and nobody wants to take that gamble. One of the most telling moments came just days ago when a small studio known for giving second chances to controversial names shut down a proposal she'd made for a docuseries. They didn't reject it publicly. They just never replied. Silence has become the industry's response to anything. Meghan, it's not loud rejection. It's quiet exile. Adding to the pressure is the money. Netflix has already sunk millions into the reshoots, the editing, the PR cleanups. Every delay, every tweak to the footage is another hit to the budget. At this point, the return on investment is expected to be minimal. And because Meghan's involvement comes with so much baggage, there's no hope of licensing the series internationally or selling off spin-off rights. It's just dead weight. Meghan, however, still believes she has one more move left. Insiders say she's toying with the idea of going fully independent, self-producing her own content and releasing it on platforms like YouTube or Vimeo. She's even met with a few tech entrepreneurs to discuss building a platform of her own. But none of that addresses the real issue. The public just doesn't trust her right now. Rebranding takes time, and Meghan is running out of both time and allies. To make matters worse, her relationship with Ted Sarandos has deteriorated further. Once seen smiling together at red carpet events, they now haven't spoken in weeks. Emails have become formal. Communication goes through legal reps. Meghan's team even floated the idea of hosting one final redemption event, a live sit-down with a friendly interviewer to clear the air. Netflix declined instantly. They want no part in any more live moments. The industry is watching this all unfold like a case study, and how not to handle a public persona. Meghan had a rare opportunity, an open door to rebuild her image through creative control, a massive platform and supportive infrastructure. And yet, somehow, it unraveled into one of the most awkward collapses in recent entertainment memory. There's still a small, faint hope that the series will find an audience when it drops later this year. But even if it does, the damage to Meghan's brand has already been done. Hollywood rarely forgives a PR disaster this visible. And for Meghan Markle, who once held the world's attention in the palm of her hand, that spotlight is now colder than.